What's up, guys? Joe Holland here from Joe Holland Fishing on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever else in the world. I'm going to show you another fishing hack. I've kind of had this under my hat for years, but if you like throwing a chatterbait and you want to make the thing weedless and snagless, you could do that to any chatterbait on the market. But you could do this to any of your chatterbaits. You could do this to any of your chatterbaits and make it virtually weedless, snagless. You could throw it in trees, you could throw it in timber, you could throw it in pads, you could throw it in eelgrass, hydrilla. I don't care what you want to throw it in, but you could throw it in there without the worry and with the confidence that you're not going to get hung up and you're going to get it back. So the chatterbaits that I throw the Project Z, I throw the Z-Man Custom, the Chatterbait Custom, and I throw the Chatterbait Elite. Now the biggest difference in these chatterbaits are, one, the hooks are different on each one, and the shape of the head's different too. It's the same thing. Now that gives you like a flat, broader head. It's going to make a little bit more noise when it's hitting that blade, and it doesn't come through the grass quite as well as the other one, which has more of a swim bait head. This is the Chatterbait Elite, and you can see that's got like a swim bait style head or like a spinnerbait style head that should come through the grass a little easier. This one's a little bit harder to make weedless, still doable. I have one right here that you can see is completely weedless now and snagless too. What you're going to need a drill, you're going to need a drill bit, you're going to need some chatterbait heads, you're going to need some jig bristle material. You could steal that from some of your other jigs that maybe the hook's bad on, or you could just buy it. There's a couple sites on the internet that sell parts for making jigs or making lures, and you'll be able to buy these, the weed guards, brush guards, bristles, whatever you want to call them. There you go right there, and you can get them in any different color, that white, green pumpkin, black, whatever you kind of want to do to match it up. Then the other thing I do use is trimmer line from like a weed whacker. Now this one isn't quite the one I usually like to use the most, but this one will work too if you want something a little bit stronger, just one single line right there. So that'll work too. So let's dive into, oh, you're also going to need some super glue. So super glue. So pretty much you only need a couple things to do this project. It really pays dividends. I'll show you some fish catches in a little bit and where you could throw this thing where, you know, you wouldn't normally throw a chatterbait. One really cool thing about this bait, now that you have it snagless and weedless, is, you know, you're not really throwing a new bait that a fish has never seen before, but you are going to be able to throw a lure in an area where a fish has never seen it before. So typically, you know, the way I look at this is anywhere you could throw a buzz bait, you could throw this thing now. You're going to be able to throw to the same locations and to the same fish that have never heard or felt that vibration of a chatterbait coming through in that area. So high pressured areas, this thing is killer. Standing timber, you don't have to worry about getting hung up. Normally you throw a chatterbait into a standing tree or standing timber, it's gone, it's getting hooked up. This thing, you could work it through each limb, each branch. Laydowns, it's awesome in laydowns too. You know, anywhere you throw a square bill, it'll get hung up even less than a square bill. So you could bounce it over limbs, you could drop it down, fish it like a jig, or you could chatter it out of there with that vibration. Alright guys, so the first thing I recommend is take the skirt off your chatterbait. Get rid of that thing so it's not in the way while you're working. Next thing, get like a nail. You could use a thumbtack like I'm using here. You could use a knife, anything like that. And what you're going to want to do is score, make a little hole or a mark where you're going to start drilling. You know, this kind of makes it more accurate. If your drill bit tries to walk on you a little bit, this is going to keep it exactly where you want it and give that drill bit a chance to dig in. So what I'm going to do is, you know, you kind of get your angle and your location and drive that thumbtack in there, work it around, and there you have it. So now I have a small, like a pilot hole almost, where I want to do that. And the next thing you're going to want to do is get a drill bit. You could start small. You know, it'll be a lot easier to use a smaller drill bit. Sometimes I just try to do it all at once with a bigger one, but it's smarter to use a smaller one. So I'm going to put this little tiny drill bit in there, get the angle right, get the hole right, and then I'll ream it out a little bit bigger with a bigger drill bit. More power. All right, so we're ready to go. We got the tiny drill bit in there. Now that's not going to be big enough for my weed guard, but it's going to be good enough to get a hole started. And then, you know, if you have a vise, use a vise. I don't have a vise. These fingers should do it. Make sure you don't hook yourself. And then just kind of get the angle right and go to town drilling. All right, I think we've gone far enough. Definitely far enough for a pilot hole. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to hit your metal from your shank of your hook. And that's deep enough. That'll be enough of a cavity to hold your weed guard in there. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that bit. And then let's just step up to the one we're going to be using. And the easiest way, so on this particular one, I'll throw in a bristle guard, a weed guard, and you could just kind of line them up like that and see if you have the right size bit. Or in your hole here where you where the bits go, where it fits tight, you could do it there. Or you could drill a hole right in a piece of cardboard. You could drill it in a piece of plastic, or you could drill it into a piece of wood. I'm going to just drill it right there. Now you see that little hole right there? I'm going to see if this fits. It's pretty tight, but by the time I kind of ream it around, it should be good. Or I could step up to the next size bit. So that's about perfect size right there. That'll be a good tight fit. So we'll use that drill bit right there. We already have our hole lined up, so the bit shouldn't walk on me. I'm going to give it, and then you can see the angle I'm holding this is going to be the angle that the weed guard comes out. And that's pretty important. You know, you don't want it too close to the hook, or you'll be hooking up on grass and weeds and stuff. And you don't want it too high either, because then it'll be too stiff. Okay, we about got it right there. That's drilled out. And then what I'm going to do is make a little bit of room for the glue. I'm going to kind of ream it a little bit with my right hand into a little bit bigger circle. And then there you have it. So it's drilled out. You can kind of clean that up if you want, or leave it. And then we're going to see if this fits and if I got my angle right. So there you have it. That right there. Now that's a little high right there, so I could actually go back with my drill bit and get this angle better, or I could just bend this weed guard. The cool thing about those plastic weed guards is they are bendable, and you can kind of shape how you want them. But I'm going to go back and get this angle a little bit better. And you can kind of make up for it with the super glue too. Alright, so we just changed the angle a little bit of that hole. Let's see if it comes out a little bit better. Yeah, now that's a lot better right there. You know, you want to leave like a 1/4 inch gap between your hook and your weed guard. That's about perfect. It lines up really nice and straight. That thing's money right there, folks. It shows you how easy it is. It takes about 1.5 minutes to do something like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife and clean off these the paint or the pieces of lead that are kicking out, so it's nice and clean. And then this stuff seems to work the best for me. I'm not affiliated or sponsored by Gorilla Glue. If you work for Gorilla Glue and you want to sponsor me, give me a call. This stuff seems to work the best. I'm sure just about everything on the market works well. But what I do is I take that thing and put a dab. Pretty much you just kind of fill that hole, because it's going to go up the bristles. On the inside of the bristles, it'll go up the outside of the bristles, and it doesn't have to look that clean. And then once you got it filled up with the glue, just kind of jam that weed guard in there like that. And it's that easy, folks. And then what you're going to do is I usually just set it down in one of these ridges here so it's still straight up until it dries. That's one of the ones with the custom head, or the Chatterbait Elite head. Gives you a little bit flatter spot to do it with. And then if you want to do something with like the Project Z head, which is more that swim head, here's one in 3/8. We'll open this sucker up. All right, get rid of that thing. So there you go. So you can see that head's thinner. It's more of a swim jig head, and it's not going to give you a nice flat spot to drill, but you can still get it done. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the skirt on that one. See, the hook's a little bit longer. It's got a nice mustad, I think, or gamakatsu on there. And then what I'm going to do here with this one is I'm going to make a little flat spot with my knife, because it's so rounded and it comes to a point. I'm going to just shave that, make a little flat spot. I'm going to take that thumbtack again and give myself a nice pilot hole to kind of get started with. That should catch a drill bit right there, just a little thumbtack or a nail or whatever you have to do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that real small drill bit. Like I said, if you have a vise, use a vise. If not, then be a man and just use your fingers. Let's go in with this one, see if we can drill a nice straight line. Alright, see, now that's not the prettiest thing, but we can clean that up with my knife, and it really doesn't have to look that pretty. And then we're going to put another green pumpkin one in here, because this is a green pumpkin chatterbait. Now that hole's plenty big right there. Got my angle way wrong. See, you got about 1.5 inches, 2 inches between that. So I'm going to have to make my angle a little bit better, which is cool, because you can always go back and fix that with the drill bit. Alright, that's about perfect right there. This is about 1/4 inch. That weed guard should collapse pretty good for you. And I'll show you the different options you could use on this thing. So this is your standard bristle weed guard right there. It's just like the previous one I showed you. that can go in there. Now, one of the advantages to using these is you could pull bristles out, you could trim them, you could do just about anything you do with a regular jig with those. So that's what that looks like. And then the other thing that I will put in there are the pieces of plastic, little tubing or plastic from a weed whacker cable. So that's one of the cool things about these. You could actually bend them and form them. So that one's pretty rugged right there. It gets out of the way when a fish bites, and either it goes left or right of that hook, either way, and it keeps them pegged. And you could leave these longer and kind of trim them to where you want, or you could glue them too. So same deal with these. I've messed around with a couple different other materials too. I tried some copper wire and stuff, but I found that the plastic from these, the weed whackers, or just your standard, are the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that standard bristled weed guard in there. And like I said, I just fill this cavity right up with glue and kind of let it run up the weed guard. And so you give it a nice dab. Give it a nice dab of glue in there like that. And then this weed guard's got a little bend to it already, so I'm going to kind of form that, put that in with a bend back towards the hook. You know, so it's important that it's straight and it lines up with your hook so your chatterbait runs straight too. And it's important that you leave about anywhere from a quarter inch or so in between the hooks. And I could still trim this, and I could take some of those weed guards out if I need to once that dries. That's money right there, folks. That's how you do it. It's super easy. Just need a couple tools. You need a drill, a couple bits, some weed guards, or any kind of material you want to put in there, and something like a thumbtack or a nail to score that hole, and you're good to go. Let's see how this thing works out in the wild. Right there, folks. Top of the mouth, weed guard, blocking it in there. Nice bass. That's a perfect example right there, thrown to the other side of the log. Throw anywhere with this chatterbait. Don't have to worry about getting hung up or butting up with too much grass. Pegs them pretty good right there, if you can see. And you got that weed guard in there, and it kind of helps keep that hook pegged. Nice bass. you like this fishing hack or you find it helpful, feel free, give a comment, put a like on the bottom of this thing, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really appreciate that.